Hello and welcome back to another session of serde-yaml. It's Byron speaking. And well, in the previous session we have actually managed to improve the implementation to a point where I came to believe that we will now need to deal with either explicit entries in mappings or with indentation. And I think in the moment we deal with explicit entries, we kind of deal with indentation as well. I think, I mean, depends on the situation, but yeah, actually it's not necessary. So I think entries are something that we should, or explicit entries are something we should do first. And there are a few code paths that we can't flesh out yet because we depend on our ability to analyze values before we write them out. Right now we are kind of emitter based and we get callbacks and have to act on the callback or forget about it. But we don't want to forget about it. We want to keep some information stored somewhere until we can make the decision that we need to make. So right now this is the case for complex keys. Is complex key. There is already some code path that wants to deal with that. Because, yeah, actually, when do we know that it's a complex key? I think it's part of, yeah, when we open something while we are doing a mapping key, then we know it's a complex key. And this is basically when we would have to record something. But this is also the case if we want to hide null entries. Because if we want to hide null entries, we have to all of a sudden store all the key value pairs no matter what. And kind of have some special handling if and if not we are if we are not a value, because the key is something you want to store in such a situation, whereas the value is something that will trigger a flush. And in that very moment, we could also deal with the syntactical specialties, like if you want to use explicit entries. So yeah, let's have a look at the explicit entries then. Maybe let's have a look at, not this one. Let's have a look at the test here. So the last test we see is, again, there's something we can't do yet. We need to be able to store values. Mapping flow. Interesting. We had the same situation in two different spots. Like for real. Mapping block, mapping flow. Yeah, okay, one time it's a block that is completely empty then. And the other time it's something else. Oh yeah, and it's a special case that if it turns out that, there is not a single key after all, after we do the entries, then in order not to lose information, the block is empty. So we have to make it a flow block, right? This is what we are testing here. So a lot of logic that is still missing, that is based on functionality that we cannot have right now. Okay, so what we can have is explicit entries to some extent, and we can put in the code path needed to deal with that properly at some point. A good thing is if we have explicit code path, then we don't need to do this complex key handling anymore. Because that's totally based on whether we may or may not have complex entries. Let's visualize this a bit. So that's the normal implicit key. Key2 value. So as you can see, it's null by default. So that's something we handle already. But what you can also do in a mixed mode fashion. So if now a key comes along that has a complex value, unfortunately I can't show this here because this is Python here, and for Python there is no way to unfortunately specify Yeah, it's probably using the load safe function, and that doesn't call any Python thing. So what you want to do is Python tuple here, and then give it a list of things. But unfortunately, this is forbidden, I think. It always wants to interpret this as global, and if it interprets it as local, it still doesn't, it just doesn't know it. So that's the problem here. I can obviously do it in my own Python shell, but where's the fun in that? Complex keys are something that are really easy to do in Rust, and are likely to happen, but are difficult to do in Python. But anyway, so that's how the syntax looks like, and then here's the value. But the cool thing is, even if we don't use complex keys, we can just say key 3 and value, right? And this is also needed if you want to have tags along with that. Oh, by the way, tags. Do I use tags anywhere? Yeah, kind of. So what happens with, let's use tags, because tags can kind of make it harder for you. So in block mode, we try tags. Here we try tags. Where is the explicit tag here? Yeah, I think this is something we actually have to, that's the low-hanging fruit that could lead us to new implementation issues that we didn't notice so far. So that's scalar values, right? And that's where that already works, because there's nothing to do wrong. But what happens if I'm in block mode and I have tags? So two things. There is encode scalar. How could I forget about this? So if you have an explicit tag, what do? We override the explicit tag. So if we are not plain, then we enforce the explicit tag. This is what we do. In plain style, do I test this anywhere? So if I would test it, I would see null here. Here we test it. Good. So here we have an explicit style. Here implicitly we use tag mode just to be sure this is really a null then, or whatever it is. Because if you put strings around everything, then, or quotes around everything, then all of a sudden the types are not clear to us anymore. At least not when it comes to YAML. The thing is, when we decode something, we know the tag, so probably, when we encode something, you could say, well, a normal YAML encoder would have trouble to know the type of this, to know that this null is supposed to be a null. But theoretically, no way. I think this is good to do. I was just thinking that maybe because when deserializing stuff, we have a type in our structure, we could also just use that as a guide. But I think it wouldn't be proper to make these assumptions. Because then we are not general purpose anymore. Okay, long story short. Let's try explicit tags in flow blocks, in flow sequences, and in block sequences. So, sequence block, here we go. And here we want to try tags. How does it look like? Op scalar value, explicit tag. I think you want to put it to false right afterwards. And now if you do that again, you would have something like now. and now. And I think what I should also test for... Oh look, this actually works. Interesting. Because of the space that we want to do. Because that is based on the has leading control character. And the thing is, I think you want to say that is empty document is false, otherwise because we are not empty anymore, and I'm afraid that this could possibly fool the next space character here to not appear. Alright, so that's the first thing. Then yeah, this should possibly work already. Let's try. If we manage to make this compile, I mean, who knows? Maybe I put some weirdness in there. Mapping block, we are in sequence block. That actually works, that's very nice. Yeah, let's be bold and say, well, let's just try this. You know, it's always better to try more. So this means, well, we have a new line here, and then we have now, and we have now, right? So far so good. Awesome. So now the same for a map, a flow, a sequence flow. Sequence flow, here we go. Look, we actually didn't try that. Amazing. How come? Okay, so this is what this, well, I don't know, what, probably what this session is going to be about. Provided that something doesn't work at some point. Which I assume. Where's the explicit mapping? Explicit tag thing again. Here we have the line. I could also put, I could also put some parentheses around it just to show what kind of, that is the implicit tag area. I could, but I could also not. Let's see. Okay, so here I turn it off. Here I turn it on. We could also have a precondition and verify that this is actually off, but this is the default for YAML, and I just know that. And as long as there's no bug in that area, I will assume the best. Wait a moment. This is YAML sequence flow. Sequence details. Okay. Ah, I just copied this here. I was wondering why the heck. No, wait. Okay, I copied this. I copied nonsense there. What I actually want to copy is this. So how does that look like? I think it would look like that, huh? Totally. I'm just verifying that this actually is valid code. Like this. Oops. Right? Right. Looks good. And then here you can do with whitespace whatever you want. Right. But we can't do that right now because we have no line break control. Let's call it line break because line break is really also where obviously want to have more control over. And opts. Awesome. It just takes us how long to get to that point? Six seconds. I think 5.7 seconds. That's the user time. It's okay. It's acceptable for Rust time, but it still feels long, right? Like a second or so would be better. But anyway, it is what it is. So that actually worked. Nice. And now the fun part. This is where things can actually stop working. The mapping. So mapping flow should have no problems with explicit mapping details. None at all. It hides null values automatically. Fine. But this should be fine, right? It should just be sorry, explicit tags, not explicit mapping details. Whatever that would be, doesn't exist. Key, and then we close it, and then we can just say, well, this is a string. Still a string. Now it's a float, and so on. So that totally works. So yeah, that's a string. And that's a string. And this should not be a null now, right? Because we hide the null value. And this is something we actually never tested, which is good that we tested now. So let's see how that works, if it works. I'm always critical. I'm always thinking that possibly something weird like that will not work for the first time you try. But mapping flow. Oh, look at that. So we don't get the expected results. 179. We fail. Very ungracefully. Because what the heck? It just ignores it. Why? How can it ignore it? It's a key value. Key value. Scalar key details. True. This is a value. No, we are in the realm of keys. Oh, the cool thing is that because we are in the realm of keys, the null value stuff doesn't matter, but we will try it anyway. Because we want to... Actually, we tried that, right? We just tried it because we set the value to, or the text to be there, but nothing happened. So mapping flow, look at that. 179, it's still... Scalar key detail is still not there. What the heck? So I think something goes wrong here. I have the feeling that we don't actually... What happened here, by the way? I didn't save this. Maybe... No, something else will fail. No. Good. So we are in 179 still. I have the feeling that we don't pass in the right options. So... Visit string. Probably only deals with the value options here. Oh. Yeah. I think this guy has no idea that it can be a key. So if it is a key, what happens? Then we should... Is complex key... Yeah, I think we should check for is mapping key. If self is... Yeah, I don't like this name here. Sir mapping key. I remember that it was is mapping key at some point. And I wanted to indicate that we are serializing a mapping key right now, but it's kind of... I like this more. So if is mapping key, then If it's not a mapping key, then it's a value, and then we deal with the string value section here. Otherwise, do we clone this stuff? Yes. Itself opts borrow scalar key details. Do we use them at any point? For the enum unit, enum sequence, enum map, and this is basically stuff where that we have never run yet. So yeah, now we finally use them. Nice. So now they might actually arrive there. We just found a bug. That's good. Yeah. Self-encode scalar 510. Oh, true. Here, actually, we don't want one. Here, we want one. Awesome. And mapping flow now fails where it failed previously. That's good. Good. And now it gets even more interesting. Now in mapping block. Should we test anything else here? Oh yeah, we wanted to test, we wanted to verify that hide scalar or hide values. This, what is this, by the way? Dual opt key. We want to be sure that that tags don't show up. Yeah, let's do that. So let's be sure that opts scalar value details explicit tag is true. And that this is still exactly the same. Do we test this somewhere? I don't know. If, you know, I just want to be sure about this. That they don't, I mean, because we hide null values in this particular context here. And not necessarily in other contexts, so I really want to be sure that this is the case. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted right now. Yeah. So here we go. Oops. So that's the second test. It shouldn't, yeah, scalar values will not be shown, will not show up if, even if explicit tags are on, if they are hidden. Yeah. It's actually explicit because this only happens with null values. So that is expected to work as well, no problem there. Voila. Yeah, I can say voila here. That's good. Mapping, explicit entry mode. All right, so now tags and mapping block. Where's mapping block? Hey, do I not have mapping block? Here I have mapping block. Okay. So now it gets interesting because I think this requires explicit mapping entries. Look at that. So if I have key value, then if I want to have something explicit here, then I can say this, that will work. Okay, this works as well. Good, so I don't need explicit entries for that. Okay, cool. I thought that this might actually trigger certain requirements that we can't fulfill yet, or that are harder to fulfill, but that's not the case. Totally not the case. Awesome. Okay, cool. So we can just throw it in and test it. 42. Good. Let's do it then. Scalar value details, scalar key details. Here we go. Where is it? Mapping block here. Yeah, I think I just toss it. I'm looking for something that seems interesting. For a test case that seems interesting. And I guess considering we are... Oh yeah, we don't see this here, so we have to put it here right now. We don't get there, we are failing here. So I guess this will be simple enough. Voila. And now we have string, new line, string, new line. All right. That is that. And this should just work. I think I will do a little bit of refactoring in this session, then we are done for that one and can proceed. Oh, fail. There is a, look at this. This is what we get, this is what we expect. So we are missing a space here, and here we are missing a space as well. So two things. Interesting. Why does it work in the other cases? Because we have some sort of character here and here. And these open characters, they deal with the isEmpty_document flag. And this empty document flag is something a bit fishy. This might not work for us, and especially if you see this logic here. And you see to what it led us, to what kind of logic it led us. Damn it. Terrible. But this now is the same problem because we always add a prefix here. And now all of a sudden I have the feeling we get the wrong result, maybe because we do this here. If it's an empty document, then we don't have a leading control character. And if we have... Yeah, but it's not an empty document. So this will be true then, right? Has leading control character, which should enforce... which should totally enforce a space here, but the space doesn't happen. So I can make this particular test work easily, at least regarding the space. But I don't know why this space isn't coming in. Well. So what do we get? This is what we get. And look at that here. Yeah, so this, for now, the easiest seems to be to say, well, if self is empty. Seems like a special case, though. That is too special. I don't like that. Review st. This should also be related to whether or not a control character was emitted on this line. It's really per line as well. this is per line. Yeah, and I think this per line thing we kind of have encoded implicitly because we only ever, well, we export multiple lines, but this kind of worked for us. But I have the feeling that this will not work for us forever. Okay. Anyway, I'm still missing this one. Ah, maybe this is also part of it. Structure block. We are in block mode. We are not a value. And we have no explicit entries. I think this is why, this is why it thinks, now I get it. But on the other hand, yeah, this is why we are here. This is exactly the area that decides that there is not, oh my god. Yeah, I get it now. So do you see what happens? my shiny little world is breaking apart. Because on open, whenever we emit a new line here, we want to reset this. Has control character or has, and this is happening here. So here we could, I think we have to do this. And this is on open close and after comma and after colon. This is primarily it. And the moment we get to a new line, we will reset this flag. And then it should be a hell of a lot easier to do this. Okay, so now a lot of stuff fails. But this is generally the case. In the moment we prefix anything, we basically want to make it dependent. I mean, sometimes we know that at some point in space we need this, but yeah, that's the logic here. We always need to have this after a sequence. Let's call it is empty line. Yeah, something like that. Let's call it is empty line. And now we get into the realm of refactoring. Is empty line. So we begin document, then this line is not empty anymore. Begin stream, that is still empty because that's just writing the bomb. If we close something and we add a line break, where do we add line breaks? Line breaks, that's flow. Damn it, where's the line break? But this empty line is set to false here, that's okay. And document, that's okay. But I think here I want to set it to, yeah, self is empty line. Should be true here. Where else is a line break? There must be more line breaks. With open we do everything as prefix, not to forget. So in the moment we put a line break, open ASCII, and so this is where we want to set an empty document. Boom. Here, and the default is true. False. Damn it. By default, the following will add something to the line unless we skip to the next one. And this emptiness extends to white space. So if there is only white space, we consider it empty, right? And this is something we have to remember. But I think with the new line logic, we are already rather good, better than before at least. It is empty line. Then when we set a colon, then empty line is false. Yeah, but colons are kind of special. Oh, when we open something, right, then we set it to false as well. Is empty line, begin document, end document, scalar, and once we have added a tag, that is not empty anymore. That's true. And at the end of this, we should also set it just for that is kind of true, but I don't trust it. Let's just do it. Because that line is not empty anymore, and we put no artificial line break in there. And yeah, this is the return value as well. So I guess this is kind of what we do, is empty line is false. Okay. And for the colon and whatever, yeah. Where else do we set it? Do we set it anywhere else? Or use it anywhere else? Visit sequence. Okay. I have the feeling I've been missing something, but maybe not. Okay, so considering that it worked nicely before, we're now in a state where nothing where a lot of things seem to not work anymore. Let's put it here. That will make it easier because of the return value of this statement. All right. "40 minutes in." That's where the time gets lost at all of a sudden. Look. Mapping flow. Oh, I wanted to say this looks good, but it doesn't. Because there is... Yeah, so it open logic isn't correct yet. Ha! Because yeah, we can't set it here. We have to set it in the individual branch. Bang, forget it. We have to set it at the end. After here we have to set it. Unless empty line is true. No, wait. How do we do this? Actually, we could check the length of the open introduction. Oh no, we can also write a line break. So in this case, it's an empty line. Otherwise, it's not. Yeah, I would have to set it here explicitly, damn it. And in block mode, we always start on a new line. If this line is empty already, then there's no need to do anything. I see the logic. And this line will remain empty then. That's important. Interesting. Wait a second. Look at the logic here. If the line is empty, then it remains empty. Otherwise, we put it onto an empty line, which we put a new line there, which leaves it empty as well. So we kind of want to do the inverse. If it's an empty line, the thing is, whatever we do, in the moment we output something that is not a new line, then I think I want to remember if we have a new line or not. Because if you don't emit a new line, then the document is not empty anymore. I think that's what I want. So let's set a flag here. Let's keep a state. And then self is empty new line, is empty line, is not emits new line. So that should be the logic here. So maybe this looks good now. Oh shit. Huh. Emits new line, emits new line. Oh. Inverse logic. I have the tendency to do that. That changed it around as well, again, but we are still totally wrong. I mean, obviously there should be... Oh, damn it. I effed it. I effed it to death. Okay, document indicator start. So after document new, right? Maybe I have accidentally inverted the is empty line. No, was is empty document before. So that's related to the tag, right? If it's an empty line, is empty line. So where's the tag handling here? Maybe I just effed this one up. Here. If not is empty line, then do that. See, I definitely had a bug there. And maybe this works better now. A bit better. One failure is gone. All right. So here we now have an extra space that shouldn't be there. And here a space is missing. Okay. So if it's not an empty line, so that, I think that's good now. I like that way more. Then we need some sort of spacing, right? This is what we are saying here. And this kind of spacing we need to obey to in all cases. So here we have some more specific style. Okay. So we obey this in all cases, as far as I can see. So this means that in the moment we are dealing with a sequence, for instance, we don't do it correctly, or we are missing something. So in this case, it's not empty anymore, right? Self is empty line is false because we've just emitted something. So this should now work actually. And this one here, if we have, well, I don't know why this is not empty according to him. Ah, because we are in open mode. right? If we open something, maybe we are a bit too greedy when it comes to the open implementation. So is empty document, is empty line. If we don't emit a new line, well, that's weird. I would actually think that the logic here is sound, but apparently it's not. Okay, with a bit of luck, sequence block should now work. Let's do one after another then. Ah. Okay. So, yeah, it's kind of the inverse. It's totally inversed now, damn it. Look at that. So here we have a block mapping, and that's the only one where it fails now, right? So this is not supposed to be like that, obviously. And if we have a block mapping, then this one thinks there's something, and the first value thinks there's nothing. So we open it, and that moment I think we set it to the right state. Oh. The thing is, no, we set it to the wrong state here. So if this remains empty in block mode, yeah, let's make it remains empty. Line remains empty. So I think, oops, something I messed up. Yeah. I think I didn't replace. Line remains empty, voila. And now we can do this for these cases as well. Yeah. Voila. Voila. And that's the case, right? Line remains empty. Boom. And now we should be back to normal. Actually, we're not back to normal because we have one additional test that now works as well. Nice. The additional test is this one, right? That one kind of had the tendency to do the wrong thing for us. And yeah, should we try this here as well after the document? New line thingy? Why not? Let's put document indicator style like this. And then I can just copy this here. Then we set it off again. So this will be string. String, right? I hope so. Oh, have I just seen maybe something I was missing? Was I missing this? I was totally missing this. Damn it. 115. I added a new test even though the previous one still doesn't work. Did I miss something? Did I? What the heck? Look, so first of all, whatever happens here, the line remains empty. Voila. I think I should read my structure correctly. That's better. Still, we still actually didn't fix this. I was involved in quite a bit of wishful thinking here, because after all, I didn't fix anything. Yeah, why is there? Okay, we fixed something, right? There's just the key now that should have a spacing there. So if it's not an empty line, we need a space. And then we set it to false. Oh yeah, that was that thing here, I remember. So in block mode, if we are not a value, if we are a value, then we assume colon, right? This is why we have this check here. If we are a value, then some colon is there, or some prefix at least, especially in the mapping world. Otherwise, if we are dealing with explicit entries, then we have some character in front. And this is something where we might be able to improve how this works just by working with the empty line logic a bit more. Maybe we should do it right now that we have kind of improved this. Let's put this here. Because in the moment we have some special character like this, we say it's not an empty line anymore. If we put a colon like this, we should just say, well, self is empty line, no more. Right? And that is that. Actually, this is some sort of possible error because of this errors. Then we say, well, it's still not an empty line, even though it might still be an empty line under circumstances, because we expect this to be emitted properly anyway. So in the moment we emit any scalar, then it's not an empty line anymore. That's true. So scalars can be keys or values. With open and close, we do this already. And this means that in theory, this entire thing here isn't necessary anymore. In flow mode, we always assume that. So where's the comma? Here's the comma. Same thing here. Just set it now. So I would rather have a dumb code that is easy to read than complex code that is something you will not understand next time you look at it, like in 5 minutes. Actual indentation, yeah. So that's more like it. So this is basically tests, improvement, and refactoring in one. Just so happened. Yeah, so we actually don't want to get into this anymore. Because this has a return value for us. We want to set it to false. That is empty line is self is empty line. Just to make setting it easier. So in theory, we can just get rid of this entire block and use is empty line here. If it's not an empty line, we want to have a spacing character there. So that could now work. Okay. Now look at that. 112. Oops. Even earlier. Yeah, for some reason the new line here didn't work for us. Yeah, we have we are missing some line break. A line break that we have. Maybe we are still setting this explicitly and kind of. Doesn't look like it. So what happens between the map elements? because that is kind of map element code here. Yeah, element separator. And this one could be a line break. Is empty line is false? Oh, look at that. So here we are actually missing is empty line is true. That is that. Cool. So now this might work, or we get further. Good that we have the tests. That way you actually can be like a fancy monkey. After all, you just have to follow the rules and make it work. You know, it's really like you can make your mistakes. Cool. So that works now. One could say we are where we were before, but we are not. We simplified the code and made it more robust and easier to understand. Cool. So that is this session, totally. And next session will be about explicit entries. And then it will be about indentation. Nice. 1 hour. Time is flying by. Amazing. So what did we do? I think we fixed something. Fixer. Improved tag and whitespace handling. Previously, tags would not work correctly, as we were missing a few tests that have now been added. This pointed to issues in our current logic and helped improve the code. It's dumber, but easier to understand, and it actually works. So you know, these few writes that we do now, they're totally worth it. I say that's the point here. Skip CI. Cool. So that is that. Thanks for watching and have a great day.